Her laugh cut through the crowd like a knife. Who let her wear that? Looks like she pulled it out of a thrift store dumpster. The words weren't whispered. They were meant to sting, meant to humiliate. The one sneering was the neighborhood's self-appointed queen, the woman who never missed a chance to remind everyone she was in charge. And the target? A quiet black girl standing alone, clutching the hem of the dress she had worked so hard to piece together. The crowd's eyes followed, some smirking, some pretending not to notice. She was dismissed before she even had a chance to shine. But what no one realized was that in less than 24 hours, the tables would turn and the girl they laughed at would own the night. Tell us in the comments, have you ever been judged before anyone even knew your story? Before we begin, hit subscribe. It's appreciated. It was spring in Willow Creek, a town where everyone seemed to know everyone and where appearances carried more weight than they should. 17-year-old Aaliyah had grown up here her whole life. She wasn't the loudest in the room nor the most popular, but she carried herself with a quiet strength. The kind of strength born from watching her single mother work 2 jobs just to keep their modest home afloat. For weeks, Aaliyah had been dreaming of prom. Not because of the crown or the spotlight, but because she wanted one night where she didn't have to think about bills, late shifts, or whispered judgments. One night to just be a teenager. But when the other girls posted their designer gowns online, sparkling, tailored, dripping in labels, Aaliyah's heart sank. Her family couldn't afford that kind of luxury. Still, she refused to let that stop her. With patience and determination, she stitched together a dress from secondhand fabric her mother found at a clearance bin. It wasn't perfect, but it was hers. Every stitch told a story of resilience, every fold a quiet rebellion against the idea that worth was tied to wealth. Prom night arrived with the air buzzing in expectation. Cars pulled up to the venue, shining under streetlights, and teens in glittering dresses and tuxedos spilled out, laughing. Aaliyah stepped out of her mom's old sedan, smoothing her homemade dress with trembling hands. For a moment, she felt the magic of the night until she noticed the whispers, the stares, and then the laugh, the kind that burns into your memory. That's when the insult came, loud and cruel, cutting through the music. And suddenly, everyone was watching her. If you were in Aaliyah's place, standing there, dress mocked, confidence shaken, what would you do? Aaliyah's face burned as the words echoed in her head. Laughter rippled through the crowd, some trying to hide it behind their hands, others bold enough to point. The HOA president, Mrs. Carter, known in town as Karen for her sharp tongue and endless complaints, stood at the center of it all. She smirked, arms crossed, satisfied with the attention she had drawn. Aaliyah swallowed hard. Every instinct told her to shrink, to disappear, to pretend she hadn't heard. But the night was only just beginning, and no matter how much she wanted to run, she forced herself to step inside. The ballroom shimmered with chandeliers, the air thick with perfume and laughter. Girls in sequins posed for photos, the click of cameras capturing smiles that seemed effortless. Aaliyah stayed on the edge, her heart pounding. Each time she moved, she felt eyes on her, whispers trailing like shadows. The DJ's music boomed, the floor filling with dancers, but Aaliyah couldn't join in. She thought of her mother, who had hugged her tightly before she left, whispering, "You're beautiful. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." That memory was the only thing holding her together as the hours dragged on. Then came the moment she couldn't avoid, the announcement of prom queen nominees. Names were called, cheers erupted, and then silence, Aaliyah's name. The crowd hesitated, some gasping, some laughing, as if it were a cruel joke. Even Aaliyah herself froze, unsure she had heard right. Mrs. Carter's smirk widened into disbelief. She whispered loudly enough for half the room to hear, "Her? This must be some kind of mistake." But Aaliyah walked forward. Her steps were shaky, but each one steadier than the last. The stage lights hit her, making her patched-together dress shimmer in a way no one had expected. For the first time that night, she didn't feel invisible. She felt seen. Still, tension hung heavy. Whispers grew louder. Was this nomination a setup to humiliate her even further? Or was something shifting in the room that even Mrs. Carter couldn't control? The crown was still out of reach, but the night was far from over. What do you think happens when someone the world underestimates suddenly becomes impossible to ignore? The ballroom fell silent as the envelope was opened. The principal's voice echoed through the microphone, drawing out the moment as if the whole room was holding its breath. Aaliyah gripped her hands together so tightly her knuckles whitened. She had already convinced herself she wouldn't win. Why would she, after everything tonight? And your prom queen is... The pause seemed endless. Aaliyah Johnson. Gasps. Cheers. A few groans. For a heartbeat, Aaliyah couldn't move. The spotlight fell directly on her, and every pair of eyes in the room turned her way. Mrs. Carter's smirk collapsed into open shock, her face draining of color. The very woman who had mocked her dress now had to watch the girl she dismissed walk toward the crown. Aaliyah stepped forward, her dress catching the light in a way no one could laugh at now. The fabric shimmered softly, not like diamonds or sequins, but with something richer, pride. The crowd's reaction began to shift. The cheers grew louder, drowning out the whispers until applause thundered through the hall. The tiara was lowered onto her head, her vision blurred, not from the lights but from tears she fought hard to hold back. In that instant, the cruel words, the laughter, the humiliation, none of it mattered anymore. What mattered was that she had stood her ground, that her worth had been recognized despite every sneer. Mrs. Carter's jaw clenched as she muttered under her breath, unable to hide her bitterness. But she could do nothing. The crown had already been placed, the room already erupted in celebration. Aaliyah had won, not just the title, but the respect of everyone who had doubted her. Imagine standing in her place, crowned in front of those who once mocked you. Would you smile through the tears, or would you let them see every ounce of strength they once ignored? The music swelled, and for the first time that night, Aaliyah let herself breathe. She stood beneath the glittering lights, tiara resting on her head, her dress no longer a punchline but a symbol of resilience. The same fabric that was mocked just hours ago now shimmered as a quiet triumph. Her mother stood at the back of the room, tears streaming, phone in hand, capturing every second. In that moment, Aaliyah wasn't just her daughter. She was proof that strength, dignity, and perseverance could outshine privilege and cruelty. Mrs. Carter, however, slipped away from the crowd, her presence shrinking as quickly as her power over the room. The queen of complaints had been dethroned without anyone needing to say a word. Her laugh, once sharp and cruel, was now nothing more than an echo drowned out by cheers. For Aaliyah, this crown wasn't about popularity or revenge. It was about more than one night. It was about every time she had been told she wasn't enough. Every side eye, every whispered judgment, every time someone tried to measure her worth by labels or status. It all ended here. But stories like Aaliyah's don't just belong to one girl. They belong to millions who have been underestimated, judged, or mocked for simply being themselves. And her victory raises a bigger question for us all. How many more voices, how many more talents, how many more dreams are silenced every day because of cruelty and prejudice? What do you think? If you were Aaliyah, would you forgive those who mocked you, or let the crown itself be the only answer? Tell us in the comments. Show some love with a like and subscribe to stay inspired.